Hello, I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about an expression and a definition of love. There were some scientists that got together and decided that they didn't need God anymore, that they've pretty much been able to accomplish everything that God has ever been able to accomplish, and so they just sort of want to write God off. And so they connected with God and they said, we don't need you anymore, and so you can just kind of go away. And God looked at them and says, well, he says, it's interesting to me you came to that conclusion. He said, let's have a competition. Let's have a man-making competition. And scientists said, fine, no problem, we got you there. No problem, we can do this. And God said, there's one provision. He says, you have to start with dirt. In other words, we're going to have a man-making competition, but we have to start with dirt. Scientists said, no problem, and they go to grab some dirt, and God says, no, get your own dirt. That's God for you, everything He created. So, as I said, I'm going to talk to you today about an expression of love and a definition of love. And the reading from the Gospel is from John 21, chapters 15 through 19. And I'm not going to read it, but I do encourage you to read it. It's the famous exchange between Peter and Jesus, where Peter is asked by Jesus, do you love me? 3 times. And so let's have Peter tell you in his words.
And then he asked me this question. Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me? I said to him, Lord, I do not blame you for asking me. I have failed you so many times. But yes, Lord, I do love you. He said, then you will feed my lambs. But then did you know he asked me a second time, Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me? And I asked him, I said, why, Lord, do you ask me a second time? Yes, of course, I love you. Yes, I love you. And he said, then you will tend my sheep. But do you know, a third time he asked me the same question, Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me? And I said, Lord, with all my heart, my soul, my body, with everything that I am, I love you. He said, then you will tend my lambs. I don't know why he asked me 3 times. I do not know. It could have been because I denied him 3 times. Or perhaps because I fell asleep 3 times. I do not know.
Well, there you have it. And it's an expression of love because this is after Peter at the Garden of Gethsemane fell asleep on Jesus 3 times. And after he denied him 3 times, even after Jesus said, you're going to deny me tonight before the cock crows 3 times. And Peter just said, no, I won't. Well, then he goes and does it. So this is an expression of love because Jesus is saying to Peter, I forgive you. I know you fell asleep 3 times when I asked you to pray with me. I know that you denied me 3 times even though I said you were going to do it. But I forgive you. But I want to know if you love me. And you see, when we forgive somebody, and if they're really sorry, they change. They become differently. You can't say I'm sorry and keep doing this same thing over and over again. So Jesus is saying, I forgive you. No matter what you've done, I'll always forgive you. But I want to know, do you love me? And he's allowing Peter to say, yes, I love you. And that's what happens 3 times in a row. That Peter says, yes, I love you. Now it's interesting, a few reflections ago I told you that the Greeks had 5 words for love. We in English have 1. In this particular section of Scripture, Jesus actually uses 2 different words for love. When he asks Peter the first time, Simon Peter, do you love me? He's using the word agape. Do you love me in a selfless kind of way? But Peter answers, well, yes, Lord, you know I love you. And he uses the word philia, brotherly love. I love you in a brotherly sort of way. So then the second time, Jesus again says, Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me in an agape way? Do you agape me? Do you love me in a selfless way? And Peter says, Lord, I love you in a philia way, a brotherly way. And then the third time, Jesus doing what Jesus will always do, he came down to Peter's level to help him to understand. You see, Jesus will always challenge us to grow, to be better than we are, because Jesus knows better than we, God knows better than we, what our capabilities, our possibilities are. So he started challenging Peter as to whether he loves them in the highest form, the selfless way. Peter kept answering, I love you in a brotherly way. So the third time Jesus says, Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me in a filial way, in a brotherly way? So he challenged Peter. When Peter did not rise up to that level in his response, Jesus comes to Peter's level and says, do you love me in a philia, a brotherly kind of way? This is Jesus' way of saying, I forgive you. I want to know if you love me, and I want to know the extent to which you love me. It's an expression of love through forgiveness and through the challenging of Peter to say, yes, I'm sorry for what I did and I love you. So that was an expression of love in today's gospel. But it's also a definition of love. See, it's important to note that this scene, this exchange between Peter and Jesus happened after his death, after his burial, after his resurrection. He's now come back. And to me, it almost suggests that one of the reasons he came back and met with everyone after the resurrection, one of the reasons might be to give us his definition of love. See, he's told us many times we're to love God and love each other, but what does love mean? He knows that we human beings can, if we're not given the definition, maybe we'll just sort of create our own definition for love. And so Jesus is, I think, giving us his definition of love. Simon Peter, do you love me? Tend my sheep. Simon Peter, do you love me? Feed my lambs. Simon Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. So it's Jesus' way of saying, if you love me, if you love God, and you want to express that love, the only way you can express your love for God is by feeding his lambs, tending his sheep, being there for each other, just as he was there for everyone that was put in his life. For the last couple of reflections, I guess, ago, I shared with you the idea that we get so caught up in our own world that we lose sight of really what's going on in the greater picture. And I shared with you that the total pandemic COVID-19 deaths worldwide was about 340,000. But the deaths from hunger, just from no food, not getting enough food, the death from hunger is almost 4 million. To remind you, he said to Peter, do you love me? Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, feed my sheep. What are we doing to show and express our love to God by expressing it for each other? Are we ignoring his sheep? Are we ignoring his lambs? Are we ignoring the people that God has put in front of us? This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.